They say every marriage can shatter in a single moment, and mine did, on a night filled with laughter, wine, and glittering lights. I thought mocking my husband in front of friends was harmless fun, a joke he would simply brush off. But when the room fell silent and he rose from his chair, I realized too late that I had humiliated the man who had quietly carried the weight of our life together. His next words would not only silence the party but would end everything we had built. That night, my world unraveled in ways I never imagined. We were the couple everyone envied, or at least that's what people believed. To outsiders, our life looked polished and enviable. A beautiful home in the suburbs, careers that paid well enough to keep us comfortable, and weekends filled with social gatherings where we appeared perfectly aligned. My husband, Daniel, was steady, dependable, the kind of man who rarely raised his voice and never sought the spotlight. I, on the other hand, thrived on attention. I loved being the center of a room, the one who carried conversations and drew laughter with stories and jokes. But behind closed doors, our marriage wasn't as shiny as it seemed. Daniel worked long hours, often returning home exhausted, while I found myself craving connection and validation outside of our quiet life. He was never one for grand romantic gestures or long, flowery speeches. His love was steady, shone through reliability, paying bills on time, fixing things around the house, remembering small details about me when I least expected it. Yet, in my restless heart, I wanted more. I wanted fireworks, not candlelight. Over the years, I began to see him as predictable, maybe even dull. And the more our social circle expanded, the more I leaned into making myself the lively half of the couple while portraying him as the silent, passive partner. Friends would laugh when I made jokes at his expense, calling him too serious, too old-fashioned, too quiet. He never snapped back, never retaliated, just smiled politely, sometimes with that tired look in his eyes I chose to ignore. The truth was, he carried far more than I ever gave him credit for. His work stress was immense, though he shielded me from it. His sacrifices, invisible but constant, made my comfortable lifestyle possible. Yet, I mistook his silence for weakness. I thought his patience meant he didn't care, when in reality, it was holding our marriage together. That fateful night, we were at a friend's lavish housewarming party. The place was alive with music, glasses clinking, and conversations overlapping in a haze of warmth and excess. I was in my element, bouncing between groups, laughing louder than anyone, feeding on the attention. Daniel trailed behind, offering polite greetings, standing quietly at the edges as always. It was during one of those conversations, circle of friends, wine flowing freely, that someone jokingly asked how I managed to tame a man like Daniel. Instead of brushing it off gracefully, I seized the moment. I told a story, exaggerated for effect, about how dull he could be, how I often felt like I was married to an old man despite him being just in his 40s. My friends burst out laughing, egging me on. The more they laughed, the bolder I became, piling on joke after joke, each one sharper than the last. I didn't notice the way the air shifted, the way Daniel's shoulders tensed. I didn't see the quiet humiliation flashing in his eyes. I was too busy soaking in the validation, basking in the glow of it. The room fell oddly quiet, a hush that sliced through the laughter. At first, I thought maybe the punchline had gone too far, maybe the joke hadn't landed. But then I noticed, everyone was no longer looking at me. They were looking at him. Daniel, who had been seated quietly, had risen to his feet. His expression wasn't angry, not in the way I expected. It wasn't explosive, red-faced fury. It was worse. It was calm, cold, like a tide pulling back before a devastating wave. He cleared his throat, and even the music seemed to fade in the background. For years, he began, voice steady but resonant enough to command attention. I've been the man you laugh about, the quiet one, the background character, and I never minded because I thought, maybe this makes her happy. Maybe this is what she needs. The silence was deafening. My chest tightened as I realized he was speaking to everyone, not just me. I've given everything I have to this marriage, he continued. Worked long hours to provide, made sacrifices she'll never know about, carried responsibilities that she never had to think twice about. And all I asked for in return was respect. Not admiration, not even endless gratitude, just respect. My face burned as eyes shifted toward me. My friends, who moments ago had laughed along, now looked uneasy, some even guilty. "But tonight," he said, his voice cracking slightly before regaining its composure, "I realized something. I don't have a partner. I have an audience. An audience that sees me as a joke, because that's what she's chosen to make me." I wanted to speak, to stop him, but my throat felt locked. The gravity of his words rooted me in place. "So," he concluded, "I think it's time we stop pretending this is a marriage, because what she wants is not a husband, it's a prop. And I won't live the rest of my life being one." Gasps rippled across the room. My stomach dropped. I stumbled after him as he walked out, leaving stunned silence in his wake. My friends avoided my eyes, some whispering, some shaking their heads. The humiliation I had meant for him had ricocheted back onto me 100-fold. I caught up to him outside, where the cold night air cut sharper than any words. "Daniel, please," I started, but he didn't turn. For the first time in years, I saw a man no longer willing to bend, no longer willing to shrink himself so I could shine. His shoulders, usually slumped in quiet endurance, were squared with resolve. He wasn't yelling. He wasn't angry. He was done. In that moment, I realized the true betrayal wasn't his silence. It was mine. I had betrayed the quiet, steady love of a man who gave me everything by turning him into a punchline for applause. When he left that night, he didn't just walk out of the party. He walked out of our marriage. Papers followed within weeks, swift and final. He didn't fight, didn't drag it out. He simply released himself from the weight of a bond that no longer honored him. And I was left staring at the ruins, replaying that moment over and over. The laughter, the silence, the words that cut deeper than any scream ever could. In the aftermath, people told me I should have known better. That mocking your spouse publicly is a cruelty disguised as humor. I learned the hard way that attention is fleeting, but respect, or the loss of it, lasts a lifetime. Daniel rebuilt his life quietly, away from the spotlight I once demanded. I hear he's doing well, thriving even. As for me, I live with the knowledge that I broke something unbreakable by mistaking his patience for weakness and my performance for love. Sometimes the loudest betrayals are not the ones committed behind closed doors, but the ones shouted, jokingly, under bright lights in front of witnesses. They echo long after the party ends. So now I ask you, the one listening to my story, would you rather win a room's laughter for a fleeting moment, or hold on to the respect of the one person who stood beside you when no one else did? Because once respect is gone, love cannot survive.